Welcome to Off the Record, an FBI agent's perspective. My name is Clark Donnelly. I'm here with my co-host, Jessica Hamilgar, and retired FBI Special Agent Harry Trombitas. Our podcast is dedicated to looking at some of the criminal cases that Harry investigated during his career with the FBI, but also including some safety information and other things that you might just need to know in your everyday life. However, we are going to talk on this episode about a case that will really capture your imagination. We've talked elsewhere in other episodes about how law enforcement agencies cooperate in spite of something you might see on TV about rivalries and turf wars. It's not that way in real life, especially in the case of missing people. And this is a case where law enforcement cooperation really plays a big role. But this is one where you are going to want to stay till the very end, because by the time we have followed this journey from a college campus in central Ohio all the way down to a remote area of the Appalachian Hills in the southern part of the state, there will be revelations that will shock, surprise you. Harry, let's start talking about the case involving the disappearance of Emily Murray.
Yeah, thanks, Clark. Good morning. Shouldn't have said that, probably. You'll have to already delete my first sentence, Jessica.
Oh, man.
You're taking a page from my book.
Yeah, thanks, Clark and Jessica. Yeah, the murder of Emily Murray was really a heartbreaking story, heartbreaking case to work. Here's a young college student at Kenyon College in Gambier, Ohio, who, is just going to school, working part-time at a bar restaurant called the Pirates Cove, and she didn't come home from work one night, and parents tried to get in touch with her repeatedly, and they were unsuccessful. So we'll kind of pick up at that point. On Saturday, November 4th of 2000, the Knox County Sheriff's Office had received a call from Thomas Murray, who was the father of Emily Murray. The Murrays lived in Cold Springs, New York, and Emily came all the way out here to Ohio to attend college. And anyway, Mr. Murray had indicated that Emily was missing. She worked at Pirates Cove on Thursday night, Friday morning, and clocked out around 3 a.m., and nobody had seen her since that time, and it's now Saturday. And the Murrays were used to hearing from Emily and getting updates about things, and obviously they were very frantic when they were calling and texting Emily, and there was no response at all. So Mr. Murray ended up calling the roommates of Emily, and they also confirmed that they hadn't seen her since she left for work on Thursday night. And matter of fact, she had left her jeans that she sometimes wears on the floor, didn't put them away apparently, but her wallet and some other items that she would normally have with her were still in the pants pockets and that. So they thought that was a little confusing. And then they were aware that Emily had had some mental health issues before, that she had much better frame of mind now. She had sought counseling, and she really was upbeat and happy. And a matter of fact, Thursday night was supposed to be her last night at work. She was going to spend a little bit more time studying in that instead of trying to work. Emily was in a much better frame of mind now, and matter of fact, Thursday night was supposed to be her last night at the Pirates Cove, and she was going to quit that job and spend a little bit more time studying. So her grades had normally been high, but they were falling off a little bit because she was spending so much time working in that. So she wanted to get back to studying. So anyway, the roommates hadn't seen her since Thursday night. Her family hasn't heard from her since Thursday. So they contact the Knox County Sheriff's Office and let them know that their daughter is missing. And of course, the Knox County Sheriff's Office immediately responds, and they go to Kenyon College and talk to the roommates and also security at Kenyon College and put them on notice that they're concerned about Emily. They send some detectives to the Pirates Cove to interview the employees to see, first of all, to confirm that she had checked out at 3 a.m. on Friday morning, clocked out at 3 a.m. And then second of all, to talk to the employees about whether they had any idea where she was. Were they aware that she went with anybody? It should be noted that Emily was within walking distance of Kenyon College. So sometimes she didn't drive, sometimes she just walked, but on this particular night, she did drive. And the Knox County Sheriff's deputies were looking for her vehicle. It was not at the Pirates Cove. They looked all over campus, could not locate it. Her vehicle, which was a green Subaru Outback, and with New York tags, and they just had no idea where her vehicle was as well. So the Knox County Sheriff's Office, now that they had a missing person, they weren't sure if she had been kidnapped or what the situation was. So they gave myself and another agent, Special Agent David Stout, a call, and we responded up to Knox County, and we met with Captain Dennis Foster and Detective Sergeant Richard Brenneman and talked to them about what they had already done, what they had found. Again, we went over that she had suffered at one point with some mental health issues. And we had learned from Mr. Murray that she had recently traveled to Mexico and had spent part of her summer there and really seemed to enjoy that. So we decided to conquer and divide, or divide and conquer, I guess is terminology. And so we had a couple of detectives that continued to interview the employees at the Pirates Cove. We had a couple of detectives then that would enter information into the law enforcement and automatic data system, put her information in that she was missing along with her vehicle and her license plate number. And what that does is, if any law enforcement officer should encounter her, Emily, or her vehicle, if they run the tag for some reason, maybe speeding or abandoned or whatever the case is, the information would pop up that she was missing, and the vehicle was also belonged to a missing person. So her physical description was entered as a white female, age 20, 5'4", 112 pounds, reddish brown hair and brown eyes. And she was last seen wearing tan pants and a black tank top underneath a sweater. So that was her dress when she was last seen on Thursday evening at the Pirates Cove. Again, continued to explore all avenues. I decided to contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And at the time, I wasn't sure, because Emily was 20, whether or not the National Center would be able to help me create some posters. And they said, absolutely, we can help you with that. So I sent a current picture of Emily along with her description to the National Center, and they, very short order, within 24 hours, had turned around a large number of these posters that I'm sure everybody's probably seen about missing people or missing children or whatever. And we were able to distribute those throughout the Gambier area, the campus area, and beyond. And I sent a poster to every FBI field office, all 56 field offices throughout the country. Should they have a report that Emily was found or her vehicle was observed, they would have that information. And so that way, if their local partners had stopped the vehicle, there's a good chance they would contact the FBI if it was a missing person. So wanted them all to be aware of that. The other thing that I did was since there had been some indications that Emily had suffered from some mental health issues in the past, we wanted to cover that angle as well. So I contacted that Department of Natural Resources and gave them some posters as well and asked them to search their respective parks and see if they spotted either Emily or her vehicle, and to give us a call if in fact they found it. And we also asked the Ohio State Highway Patrol and the Columbus Police Department to get their helicopters up and search the park areas as well, just to see if they saw an abandoned vehicle or perhaps saw Emily somewhere. So they periodically went up and conducted searches for us. So that was again great teamwork. Again, when we have a case in the Ohio, especially Central Ohio area, we contact our local partners and they always provide assistance. And that's just the way we roll in Central Ohio. We're always helping each other out. So Clark, your comment was very apropos about the way law enforcement steps up and helps each other in that. So, but
And a
we
lot of
did
times in past cases, these other branches of law enforcement have found tips or clues that have helped solve the case too. So every part is being utilized.
absolutely. And I think the days are long gone where a department had a case and they kind of kept the information to themselves and they didn't spread the word. And I know anymore, and I know it's been this way for quite a while now. The idea is to get as many people, make as many people as possible aware of what you've got going on, your missing person, your missing vehicle, whatever the case is. And it multiplies exponentially the number of people that are actually looking for that person. So if your department has, let's say, 40 employees, instead of having 40, now you've created exponentially, now you've got hundreds of law enforcement people that are looking for your missing and her vehicle. And of course, we utilized the media as well and made them aware of the fact that we had a missing college student, and that was covered pretty extensively by the media. But unfortunately, when we look back at all the things that we normally would do on a missing person case, we did them all. Matter of fact, we did them a second time, and some of the things even a third time. But we weren't coming up with any information at all that would indicate what happened to Emily. So it was kind of disheartening. And I know we kept the family in the loop on what we were doing, so they knew that we were actually, not sitting on our hands, but we were actively out looking. And so they understood all the things we were doing. Matter of fact, the Murrays flew to the area and met with the roommates and met with us to discuss any other possibilities. So everybody was actively involved in looking, but we couldn't find her. It was like she fell off the face of the earth. And then our break came about 37 days later on December 9th of 2000. I remembered.
Wow, 37
Yeah.
days later. That blows my mind.
And that, believe it or not, that's sometimes we don't get a break for years on a missing person case. So 37 days sounds like a lot, and it is, but in reality, compared to some missing persons cases where you don't find out anything for years, this was fairly quick. But anyway, I remember my son and I were returning from Ashland College. He was being recruited by a number of schools, and we were on a recruiting trip, and we were just on our way back home when Sergeant Brenneman called me. And he said that Emily's green Subaru had been found parked behind a trailer in Vinton County, and that they hadn't located Emily yet, but they wanted to stand by until we all got there so that we could figure out what we wanted to do next. So I
For
took,
those not familiar with the area of Ohio, how far away is Vinton County from Kenyon College, where she was last spotted?
it's about 90 miles south of Columbus, straight down Route 50, and kind of a very rural, hilly area. I think Clark referred to it as kind of an Appalachian area. You know, lots of what we would call hollers, hills, and random, houses and trailers throughout the area. So it was, it was about an hour and a half drive for me to get down there.
And even further to Kenyon, right?
Kenyon was north. Yeah, from Kenyon. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it'd be even further, almost like a 2.5 hour, would you guess,
About
drive?
2 hours. Yeah,
Okay.
probably about 2 hours. And so why would, the question was, why would Emily's green Subaru be down in Vinton County parked behind a trailer? That was a big question. And so I dropped my son off and I headed down to Vinton County. We decided to all meet at a parking lot of a local restaurant down there as soon as we could get there. And I know that I headed down State Route 33 to Benton County. And when I pulled into the lot of the restaurant, I saw a Vinton County Sheriff's deputy parked in the lot, and it turned out to be Corporal Chuck Boyer, I'm sorry. I identified myself. A few minutes later, Captain Foster and Detective Brenneman and my FBI partner, Dave Stout, arrived. And we got outside the vehicle and we were talking about what was found. And apparently, one of the deputies for Vinton County was trying to serve a summons on Gregory McKnight for a previous burglary that he had committed at a residence not far from the trailer. And as soon as he said Gregory McKnight, my counterparts with the Knox County Sheriff's Office recognized that name as somebody that worked in the kitchen at Pirates Cove. And so apparently Gregory and his wife owned a trailer down in Vinton County, and the green Subaru belonging to Emily was parked behind the trailer. We still had no idea what happened to Emily. Nobody had made entrance into the trailer yet. We wanted to make sure we had talked about what we wanted to do, and we decided that one of the deputies from Vinton County, along with my counterpart Dave Stout from the FBI, would enter the trailer. We still didn't know if maybe Emily was being held hostage, or whether there was anybody in there. I know that the corporal had banged on the door and nobody came to the door, but we didn't know if somebody was hiding in there or what the case was. So we all, had our guns out. The two made entrance into the trailer, and when they got inside, the rest of us remained outside just in case there was an issue. When they got inside and started to look around, they noticed a large amount of blood on the floor. So they decided to go ahead back out of the trailer and then get a search warrant, so that, again, if things continued down the path and we ended up going to court, we didn't create problems for our prosecutors with not getting a search warrant for the trailer. So backed out. We decided at that point that Vinton County would continue to work on getting the search warrant. They contacted BCI, which is the Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation, to process the scene. And myself, Captain Foster, Sergeant Brenneman, and Dave Stout decided to head back up to Gambier, Ohio, to Knox County, where we would try to locate Mr. McKnight and see if he was at the Pirates Cove restaurant working, or if he was at his home not too far from the restaurant. And so we took off, headed back up to Knox County. Okay. So we headed back up to Knox County. We wanted to try to locate where McKnight was located. We weren't sure if he'd be at the restaurant or at his residence in Gambier. So we kind of divided up. A couple of the deputies went to the Pirates Cove and confirmed that Gregory McKnight was in fact working, and he was in the kitchen at that time. And a couple of us went to the McKnight residence to talk to Gregory's wife. And
that's a common tactic where you guys split up, because you're not sure of the location and you don't want to spook the suspect, correct?
we wanted to talk to the wife away from the influence of her husband. And so we thought now was a good chance to find out what she knew about it. And of course, she lives, that trailer is hers as well. And so we didn't know if maybe she had something to do with Emily's disappearance. So wanted to get up there and talk to the wife. And we knocked on the door of the residence in Gambier, and Kathy came to the door, and she acknowledged that they owned the trailer down there. She said she was married to Greg, and for almost 3 years. They had 2 children together. She hadn't been down to the trailer for quite a while. We asked her if she knew anything about the green Subaru that was parked there, and she said she had no idea why that would be parked there. And so we asked her if she ever heard the name Emily Murray, and she said, well, I've seen in news accounts, of her missing, but she said, I've never heard Gregory talk about her or anything like that. So she said, I've never met her or anything. We continued to talk to her, and then we decided that we wanted to go over and question Greg McKnight. And we left Kathy's residence in Gambier, the McKnight residence there, and we went over to the Pirates Cove, and we went back into the kitchen and told Gregory McKnight that we wanted to talk to him and wanted him to come with us. Well, he went and told his boss, his manager, that law enforcement wanted to talk to him, and the manager starts to raise a real stink about, why don't you guys come back at 3 a.m., when he gets off shift. And, we're kind of dumbfounded. Here we are investigating the disappearance of one of his own employees. And he's telling us to come back at 3 a.m. and so that we didn't interrupt his employee, that was cooking in the kitchen.
You must get a full shift of work out of this guy before you.
Well, exactly. I paid him. He's gonna work. So we were a little confused. We didn't have an arrest warrant for him at this point for McKnight, but we also, didn't want to just walk away and let him, run away on us. Or so we're standing in the restaurant deciding what to do, and all of a sudden one of my deputies partners gets a phone call, and the Benton County Sheriff's Office is calling, and they said, hey, BCI is here. They went inside the trailer. They found what appears to be Emily rolled up in a carpet. They saw her long hair hanging out of the carpet.
So that changes things.
Yeah, that changed things right away, and therefore we want you to arrest Greg McKnight. We have a warrant for his arrest, so go ahead and arrest him. So we went back into the kitchen and we placed Gregory McKnight under arrest. And as we're taking him through the restaurant, his manager was sitting at the bar, and he starts yelling at Gregory, "Don't talk to him. Get an attorney. Don't talk to him." Yeah.
Who is this manager? I'm so confused.
It was just like, you got to be kidding me. What a asshole, in my opinion, to do that. But maybe he thought,
Especially when you take into account that it's his other employee that's missing,
no,
not even like a random person. If I had someone on staff that was like potentially a suspect of murder, I wouldn't be coaching them on how to avoid it.
you know, and again, that's certainly, you know, McKnight's right not to talk to us. And it's just
Absolutely.
kind of disheartening that the manager would try to encourage him not to talk to us and to get an attorney. And I mean, those are all things that are well within his right, but I don't know. I was just taken a little back by the manager, you know, being so insistent that he not cooperate with us. So we took McKnight back to the Knox County Sheriff's Office, and we sat him down in an interview room. And I had failed to mention also that there was an arrest warrant for Kathy McKnight as well. They wanted her arrested. And
Okay.
a couple of us went back to the McKnight residence in Gambier, and placed her under arrest and took her to the sheriff's office for processing. And then Sergeant Brenneman and I sat down with Greg McKnight at the interview room. And give me another second here. I'm ready now.
Okay.
Sergeant Brenneman and I were about to interview McKnight to see what he had to say and what he could tell us. And we had run his criminal history, and we had learned that McKnight had actually committed a violent crime when he was 15 years old. He killed a man in Columbus. And
Whoa.
so yeah, it as a juvenile, and he was actually at the juvenile detention when he met his wife Kathy, who worked there as an employee. So that's how they originally had met, and apparently they fell in love and decided to get married. So now we have McKnight in the interview room, and we're starting off with McKnight. Of course, we've got tape recorder going and the video going of the interview, and that we start off with some small talk with McKnight, like I try to always do, get him feeling a little relaxed, a little comfortable, and then we start asking questions about the case that we're working. Of course, when we do that, we have to read him his rights and go through the Miranda warning with him, and he acknowledges that he understands his rights and he agrees to talk to us. But we start asking him questions about, do you know Emily Murray? And yeah, she works at the restaurant where I do at the Pirates Cove. I don't know her that well. Why is Emily's vehicle parked at your trailer? And he goes, I have no idea why her trailer would be at my trailer, why her vehicle would be at my trailer down in Benton County. And we're saying, well, that's pretty ironic. She checks out at 3:00, same time you do, at the Pirates Cove. And now her vehicle is parked down at your trailer in Benton County. And quite honestly, we found her body as well. And that's why you're under arrest. You're under arrest for murder. And at that point, he decides that he doesn't want to talk to us anymore. I always try to leave the subject that I'm interviewing, if they're not cooperative or whatever, I tell them, look, you're in a world of hurt here, committed murder, and, we've got some pretty good evidence against you. You better think about putting something on your side of the ledger. And we wanted to leave him with that thought, even though he had indicated that he no longer wanted to talk to us. I wanted to give him something to think about while he was sitting in jail. So now you go back to Benton County, where BCI continues to process the scene. And not only do they find Emily's body, but they start to find teeth and bones from someone else out in the yard.
Okay. This took a twist that I was
Yeah.
not expecting.
Yeah.
And, they know it doesn't come from Emily because her body's whole, but now they're finding, teeth and bones and down in the root cellar and out on the backyard. And I look into that further, and it turns out that McKnight was friends with a guy by the name of Gregory Julius, and that Julius lived in Chillicothe, and Gregory McKnight used to hang out with him. And at some point, they had a falling out, and Gregory Julius disappeared. Nobody knew what happened to him, and now we find these teeth and the bones, and we're able to get DNA and figure out that in fact the bones and the teeth belong to Gregory Julius and that. So now we know that McKnight has now killed at least 2 people, which makes him eligible for the death penalty. So we go to the grand jury on Thursday, March 22nd of 2001, and we were able to get a 7-count indictment against McKnight, charging him with the killing of Emily Murray, plus additional counts for kidnapping, tampering with evidence, and gross abuse of a corpse. We didn't have any proof that she was sexually assaulted, so there were no sex charges of any kind that we got an indictment for. But we also got the indictment for the murder of Gregory Julius, and again, the murder charge, tampering with evidence, and gross abuse of corpse. So this made the McKnight eligible for the death penalty, and the judge set a trial date for September 23rd of 2002. We're all gearing up for the trial and making sure we have all of our evidence in a row. And there's some question about the trial judge made a kind of an unusual and controversial ruling that because Vinton County was such a poor county, they might not be able to afford the cost of the capital murder case, and therefore McKnight might not be granted or guaranteed adequate counsel to defend him. And they estimated that the cost would be $75,000 to hire competent attorneys to be able to represent McKnight. And the state attorney general's office immediately appealed and said, hey, you can't let, the fact that this is a poor county now indicate that we can't charge somebody, with the death penalty. That's unheard of. We can't not do things in a poor county that we can do in a rich county. So the judge reconsidered and then put the death penalty specifications back on the table. So
this sounds like the beginning of a John Grisham novel, doesn't it?
Yeah. It was. I mean, there's no question that Vinton County is a poorer county than most counties in Ohio, but that should not be the reason why justice can't be served the same from one county to another. And so kind of understand what he was thinking, but, we just can't let that happen. So, we guaranteed, the state guaranteed that there'd be sufficient funds to provide Greg McKnight with adequate representation in that. So trial started on Tuesday, October 1st of 2002. Prosecution put on about 40 witnesses. The defense indicated that Emily Murray, the victim, was so fixated on death that she shot and killed herself. And the prosecution called the father, Thomas Murray, to the stand and, asked him, how despondent was she in that? And Mr. Murray said, oh, she's been much better. She did have counseling, and, we haven't had seen any indications of any depression or anything like that. No suicide attempts. And as he so eloquently pointed out, he said, and my daughter certainly didn't shoot herself in the head and then roll herself up in a carpet.
Yeah.
The fact that
Good
that
point.
even has to be pointed out is, and from the father, that poor father who's already gone through all of it, and then is trying to defend his daughter's reputation on the stand.
Yeah, it was awful. But, you know, attorneys do everything they can to get their client off. And I mean, that's unfortunate that it's like that, but that's their job. And so, but in this particular case, I think it backfired and made the jury even more determined to convict this guy. And on Thursday, October 10th, the case went to the jury, and it didn't take long before the jury convicted Gregory McKnight on all charges related to Murray's murder, as well as Gregory Julius's murder. So 2 weeks later, Judge Simmons sentenced McKnight to death. And I checked everything here before the podcast, and Gregory McKnight is still in Chillicothe Correctional Institution, and he's going to be there until the state puts him to death. So he's on death row right now. And, you know, in retrospect, when you think back about this case and how a beautiful young woman, you know, just starting her life, had so much to look forward to, is murdered, taken from her family. I mean, it's horrendous. No parent should ever see or hear that their child has been murdered. And this was an opportunity, I think, for law enforcement to work together again and hold the bad guy accountable, not only on Emily's murder, but on Gregory Julius's murder as well, and try to bring some peace and comfort and justice to the victims. So it was a great case to work. Very sad, though.
So Kathy McBride was charged at the same time as her husband. Whatever happened to her? Did she ever stand trial?
Yeah, and I should have mentioned she was arrested, but very quickly thereafter she passed a polygraph examination, and there was no question in any of the investigators' minds that she had no involvement in this whatsoever. I mean, she was taking care of 2 children at home. She hadn't been down to Vinton County. Kathy's sister actually lives across the street from the trailer, and she verified that Kathy hadn't been down to Vinton County for a number of months and that. So Kathy was released very quickly, as she should have been. But at the time, of course, we didn't know. So we had to assume that she might be a party to all this. But again, we determined she wasn't, so we let her back out.
I wanted to ask you about some post-trial legal issues that came up involving the death penalty. You mentioned that Gregory is awaiting execution on death row, but in the middle of all of that, after the verdict and the sentence was handed down, what was it that happened that threw that eventual carrying out of that sentence into disarray or confusion?
Yeah, there was a lot of, back and forth about whether Ohio should continue to carry out death punishments. And, that's still, quite honestly, still something that people are debating and talking about. I do not know, Clark, where we stand at this particular moment as far as whether they're going to be allowed or they're going to be carried out, or whether individuals that were given the death penalty now automatically have a life in prison with no chance of parole. I'm just not aware of where we are on that.
And it changes often. So whatever you might say as we record this, by the time folks download it, listen to it, it may have changed once or twice.
I was going to ask, did they ever find a motive? Or was it just like a crime of opportunity? Now we have 2 murders on McKnight, so maybe that is just what he likes to do. I don't know.
The problem is when your subject doesn't talk, we can only have speculation. We assumed it would have been something like a sexual assault. He wanted to kidnap her, maybe sexually assault her, and we're surmising that she put up such a fight and everything that he decided that he wasn't able to control her and decided to just go ahead and shoot her and kill her. And I mean, that's probably the best that we can come up with at this point. Again, there was no indication that she was sexually assaulted, but why would he go through the issue of kidnapping her, taking her, 2 hours away down to his trailer? We're speculating on the motive, but that's the best we can come up with, is that the intent was sexual assault, but she was too hard to control, and he decided that he needed to kill her at that point. There was no turning back. He had, already kidnapped her, and what's he going to do? Let her go and then
And then have her identify him, and it'd be
Right.
worse.
and so, at that point, he needed to kill her.
And we've seen that he has no compunction when it comes to killing somebody, starting when he was 15 years old. And certainly, Gregory Julius would attest, if he were still alive, to the fact that don't get her on the wrong side of Gregory McKnight if you can help it.
Yeah.
So, Jesse, what are the things that stand out to you in this case and takeaways after you heard this story?
Well, it kind of surprised me that his manager was so helpful to Gregory and not to you all. That just kind of blew my mind in the first place. Another thing are the number of murders that he committed, but the time in between them, I think. So I don't think Harry, please correct me, he probably doesn't classify as a serial killer. He does have the 3 murders, and I'm assuming a cooling off period in between. But I don't know if since he didn't talk, we're not sure motive or anything like that.
Yeah, well, we don't need a motive for someone to be a serial murderer, but I think you're right. I think the circumstances dictate that he was not a serial murderer. He was just a murderer. And yeah, there was some time in between, but I don't think his motive was to just randomly kill people. I think they were, his motive was individual murders at each particular. There was a reason why he committed the murders at each point.
It was all circumstantial around a certain circumstance.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, and I wouldn't classify him as a serial murderer for sure.
Yeah, Gregory didn't need a reason.
No.
All right.
We don't know what the reason was for Gregory Julius's murder, other than they had a falling out and over something. I don't know if it was drugs or money or whatever, but that was his motive for getting rid of Julius. Again, that's without him telling us. We're just surmising what the purpose or the reason was, and that's the best we can come up with.
All right. Will there be some photos or anything about this? Do you have anything to add to the?
Yeah, we have a couple of photos that we'll share, and so anybody that's interested in viewing those photos.
Yeah, they'll be on our Instagram. All of our behind the scene photos are there. You can also find us on your favorite podcast platforms, catch up on past episodes and past seasons, and then you can also find us on YouTube as well.
And we sure hope you do that. So for Jesse and Harry, I'm Clark Donnelly. We'll see you next time.
Off the Record, an FBI Agent's Perspective is created and hosted by Clark Donnelly, Harry Trombitas, and Jesse Hummelgarn. Produced by Jesse Hummelgarn. Stories in this podcast are inspired by Harry Trombitas' autobiography, Dark Places, about his time in the FBI. Music is called Cruise in the Back and is available on Storyblocks. You can find this podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms, YouTube, and on our website.